3. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today at the 12th of October, and this is the day that Squirrel Girl has been released on the test server. It's also the day that Gazillion made a promo video on Comic-Con, and it showed Gambit, and it showed Nightcrawler, and it's amazing. It's also the day before my marathon, but I'm not here to tell you all about that, because today I have another special guest. This time it's not Liloric, but it is actually Skaughtto. And who is Skaughtto, you might ask? Skaughtto is a guy who knows everything about Daredevil. So without further ado, I would like to go here, and I have to turn that off. There we are. So there he is. Hello, Skaughtto. Welcome to my stream.
Hey, good to be here.
Awesome. So let's start the interview. To the chat, you're always allowed to ask me questions, and I'll try to get them in through the Skaughtto. So I'll start with my first question, and that is, who are you, and what's your gaming experience, and how did you get into Marvel Heroes?
Well, I'm from California. I've been gaming for quite a while, but I took a break from PC gaming. Most of my background in this type of game is probably Diablo 2 a little bit, but I've taken a long break since then. So what got me interested is just the Marvel intellectual property.
Okay, so Diablo 2, you say you haven't really been playing Diablo 3 then?
No, I haven't played any Diablo 3. I've heard a lot of comparisons to this game, and it's made me a little interested, but otherwise I haven't gotten into it. I've invested quite a bit of time in this game, so I stick to it.
Yeah, and rightfully so, it deserves it. You're saying into Marvel. Do you have any history with Marvel?
I just read a lot of comics. I've read a lot of X-Men, and I have a pretty good run of Daredevil comics, which is why I have him up to level 60.
So he is just your favorite Marvel character then?
Yeah, he's a great Marvel character, and in the game he's pretty good, but he definitely has some room for improvement. I tend to like melee characters and dodge.
Okay, so he fits that as well. Then good. Yeah, about Marvel Heroes. What do you like about the game? Is it only Marvel license, or is there more to it?
Well, it's definitely the mix of Marvel and Diablo. I think is kind of a nice pairing. I also played a lot of the Ultimate Alliance games. I mean, it's neat to go back to that, but on a larger scale, play with different people from all over the place. You know, trading items, finding items, different powers, different builds. I think there are a lot more options than there were in some of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. And I think the treatment's been a little bit better, but it definitely doesn't have all the action that the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games did. It's a little bit slower at the moment.
I haven't played Marvel Ultimate Alliance myself, honestly. The action there was more action packed than this, or the other way around?
It was just it was faster. It was more bang bang. But you know, this has far more options and builds and things you can do. You were more limited in those games, but I think the progression went faster, and maybe some of the boss battles were a little bit more polished, where they had more attacks or more things would happen in the environment that would affect your character and potentially cause you damage or alter the course of the battle.
Yeah. Do you think that Marvel Heroes can implement more of that while they go on?
I think they can. You know, there are certain area attacks that are annoying, like Power Cosmic, and then obviously Doom has the option to break apart the floor. I think that's an interesting thing, but it would be neat if Electro had his own area where, you know, wires would, you know, electrocute you if you walked over them, or you'd have to avoid something extra rather than just an incoming attack.
Yeah, that's some interesting idea. Do you think they can implement them when they allow the raids, or do you think they have to implement them to make them even good?
I think they do, probably to differentiate them from the terminals, because, you know, doing the same terminals day in, day out, that does get a little taxing, and there's just not, there's something missing from it. When you only have just one source of attack, it's a little bit more boring than if you have to watch for, you know, more things attacking you rather than just trash, you know, more environmental things.
Yeah, yeah. I think they have a lot of room for improvement in that aspect, and I hope the raids will bring that, because they. I was talking about it earlier. They don't really have the trinity of the tank hero, the damage healer, and the healer. So
Exactly.
to make the raids interesting, they have to do something with positioning a
I
lot.
thought
And
at one point too, they mentioned that they don't want anyone to be forced into that tank role. I thought I read something on the forums about that.
yeah, and it makes total sense in an action RPG. But if they go then to a raid setting, you have to go with, I think, more ads control and more environmental control should be the way to go. Then I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, because even when I'm playing as some of my tankier characters, it's nice to be able to control aggro and get bosses to focus on you rather than other members of the group.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and I like to make bridges. I try to make bridges, but we're talking about raids, something that's coming. How do you think so far the game has developed? When did you start actually into the game?
I've been playing since the beta, and it's made it quite a ways. I think the defense changes are the biggest thing that have come up that have really changed it, and those have been good for most characters and gameplay. I think probably people aren't respawning nearly as often, which is positive and more fun. So
Yeah, the 1.2 patch was the big breaking point. I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think a year from now it'll be a completely different game and it'll be a much better game.
yeah,
Or at
yeah.
least a year from the release probably. So maybe another 6 months or so.
Yeah, I'm already amazed every time by the short development cycle that they currently have. I mean, I don't even have Luke Cage at 6 yet at the moment, and already Squirrel Girl is there, and Gambit is coming, Nightcrawler is coming. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Nightcrawler and Gambit. Those will be two very exciting characters. Squirrel Girl's interesting, but it feels awkward to play as that type of hero for too long.
Yeah, she plays a bit like um, I hate to bring it up, but she has like um, the witch doctor from Diablo 3 has like this the frog rain, and she has like the squirrel rain, and she has like the squirrels that come out and explode, and it's just I really enjoy it. It's just really fun. Yeah, but we're not going to talk about Squirrel Girl. But
Well, that's cool. I'm glad they're willing to put in those type of characters, though, that there aren't limits and it's not only the popular ones. And it does add something to the gameplay when you see it, so it's a nice feature.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. So yeah, we talked a bit about Marvel heroes, and now I want to go further into Daredevil. What do you think that he currently stands, and yeah, could you tell me something about that?
I think the game itself is definitely it's more advantageous to be a ranged character with some sort of AoE, and so my build I use a lot of club throw. I think that's one of his better single target attacks versus triple strike. I think melee characters are just at a disadvantage overall, and then even dodge characters now that they have to suffer that 40% reduction to dodge. I think that's pretty rough against bosses.
Yeah, I'm at the beginning of the game. Dodge was only because the defense didn't work. Dodge was the only way to stay alive. So you got a lot of dodge. I think you could get up to 70% or something like that.
Yeah, 70% I think was the hard cap. And I was nearly there. I had 68 point something.
Yeah, and then they changed it to get the extra defense, but then they brought the diminishing turns on the dodge, and I think yeah that Daredevil and also Spider-Man. I think those are kind of hurt by that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really stinks being in front of a super slow boss like Rhino and he's just punching at you slowly, but you still take every hit that he throws rather than dodging maybe half of them. I mean,
Yeah,
one thing I did to compensate for it was increase his health pool. That's a big part of what I did.
yeah, yeah. We get to the details later. First, I want to tip on something else. Liloric mentioned it as well that the heroes that actually in the current game it's more like an AOE game where the heroes that are single target are not as good as the others. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'd say I feel that way. I mean, just because trying to take out the same number of single or if you're rushed by a mob of enemies, trying to take out that many enemies with single targeted attacks takes more time than if you were to just use an AOE and spam it. I mean, there's no contest.
Yeah. Um, about the different modes, how does he fare in like X defense?
He's pretty decent in X defense. One thing I use a lot is opening lunge. It actually has an AOE component to it, and it keeps him on the move. I try to focus on more of a sustained DPS where I stay alive and I'm able to do some damage, but if he gets surrounded or if you stay still for too long, he'll just melt. HP will go away.
What is like your breaking round in X defense?
It depends. I've played the beta a couple times with a couple different groups, and so I've made it all the way up to the 20-somethingth wave. I think when X Defense was first released, it kind of depends on which party you're with. If you're with a cable and a thing and some other people that boost attack, I mean that's really valuable.
Yeah, that's really good. One last thing before we go into detail into the skills is I'm looking forward to that. I don't know about you, but there is PvP coming. What do you think DareDevil will be able to do in PvP setting?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm really interested to see how they're going to balance PvP when you have, just the sheer advantage of being a ranged character and these characters that can teleport and some other things. I mean, getting close to somebody and actually attacking them is going to be very difficult. And many of his attacks, like triple strike, one reason I don't use that is you stand still when you do it. Rarely do you chase after somebody with some of these attacks. So I think it'll be rough for him.
Okay. Are you going to play PvP or do you have no plans?
Oh yeah, I am. I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to see which abilities are more beneficial than others, and see how well I can get Daredevil to do in it.
So you're going to stick with Daredevil then?
Yeah, I may end up prestiging him at some point. I was waiting for the free costume to be a part of the prestige. I mean, that's a nice feature and a good way to get costumes.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Well, it's time for the skills. I see no questions in the chat yet, so oh, I see you got the chase costume. Yeah, it's an awesome one.
Yeah, I don't have the costume that you're wearing though. I've thought about it.
Yeah, you can have them all, but not everyone can have them all, right?
This is true.
Okay, so I'm gonna open up the skill tab, and then I'm gonna close my UI. Give me one sec. It's actually in the way. So here I have the three builds, the three trees actually. The first one is Kane Fu, and yeah, I have no points currently, so I'm gonna build your build.
Okay.
So we have three basic ones, and we have the Club Strike, the Taser Club, and the Triple Strike. And since the synergies have been removed, you only have to pick one, and so I was wondering which one do you want to pick?
Well, his two basics are Club Strike and Taser Club. I prefer Club Strike just because it has the slow component to it, which really helps me stay alive. It's kind of the one thing he can do for a team is slow a boss or a group of enemies. So I prefer it versus Taser Club. Taser Club may do a little bit more damage, and he does have a electric part of it that spreads to other enemies, but the knockdown effect just doesn't trigger very often, or at least often enough that I think it's valuable. And as you get into harder content, enemies are harder to knock down, and they don't stay knocked down nearly as long. So I put all my points into the Club Strike. I still use basic attacks. I find them valuable.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking Triple Strike, but that's actually not a basic power, so bad me.
Yeah, correct. It uses 13.5 Spirit, but the nice thing is you get 3 hits out of it, and the last hit does double damage. So it is a nice skill, and if you'll notice, it doesn't have an attack speed. It really hits very quickly, which is nice. Much faster at times than the basics.
Is it in your build, Triple Strike, or not currently then?
No, I don't use Triple Strike. I used to, but it's just the thing that bothered me about it was I'd be using Triple Strike, and then a boss would move by just a small margin, and it would be out of the Triple Strike window, and so I'd be just wasting Spirit at a very accelerated rate, not hitting anything.
And then you would miss the double hit as well in the end, I guess.
Correct.
Okay. DPS wise, Taser Club wins out. You say? Do you know the damage coefficient by any chance?
I did. I calculated damage coefficients. I could bring that up. They're fairly close. Let me see if I can get that there.
Yeah, I'm sure
all
people.
Of his damage coefficients are very low, which is kind of disappointing. Looks like the damage coefficient for Club Strike is 0.37, and Taser Club is actually separated because it's got physical and energy, so it's 0.2 and 0.24 for the energy. So it's a little bit more for Taser Club, but I just prefer the slow effect. that Club Strike provides.
Cool. So